Welcome back to AI Studios. I'm thrilled to have Mickey Alon with us today. Mickey is a serial entrepreneur and one of the early pioneers of product-led growth. He's built, scaled, and sold multiple SaaS companies and served as the Chief Product and Technology Officer at Vidmon. Today, he's back at it again with a new company, Eucera, which helps SaaS companies deliver an AI-first experience inside their product. In this episode, we'll unpack what it really means to build an AI-native product, how user expectations are shifting, and what the future of SaaS looks like in a world of intelligent interfaces. Mickey, welcome to the show. What inspired you to build Eucera, and what's the big vision?
Awesome. Thanks for having me. What inspired me to build Eucera, which is helping companies to kind of tie the user intent with an outcome. In my career, I was always pushing for personalization, starting with Marketo. We did customer personalization, website personalization, usually in top of funnel. The promise was to kind of personalize the experience throughout the customer journey. And I think that did not pan out because there's kind of organization work in silos. But when we moved to Gainsight, which was a second company, we try to optimize the customer journey towards outcome within the post-sale, post-acquisition customer. So always try to really help SaaS companies deliver their intrinsic value to their customers through personalization, through better insights. And then the holy grail is trying to really do the PLG motion or delivering the consumer grade experience in a SaaS B2B, which is like, almost like not achievable goal. And what ended up being is a lot of like in-app experiences and email communication and telemetry, but these are pretty complicated. And what led me to build Eucera is the understanding that most SaaS B2B today didn't really deliver on the promise of productivity ROI on their solutions. It ends up being that you have to onboard, train, become an expert. You have to apply a lot of customer success. The cost of being business is pretty high. And you end up even hiring a full-time person to your Marketo, to your Gainsight, to any other tool. It's not Marketo and Gainsight are not different than any other tool, Salesforce and others. In coming AI, I feel we can definitely deliver on a consumer-grade experience. And it's not by adding another layer. It's actually changing the way we are delivering the user experience through the app. And Eucera is all about really collapsing the distance between user intent and outcome. Right? That's the holy grail. And in AI backend, you can actually create that experience. So we are helping companies transition that by installing Eucera and helping their customers say, just state their intent, and the agent will be able to operate with their existing backend. Because I think that you still need the data and you still need the kind of framework and logic, but the experience has to be different. And that for me was a huge aha moment. We were trying to solve a big financial problem or efficiency problem. Most companies today, they have like three main metrics. They have the top of funnel, basic customer, new logos, growth. They're trying to also retain customers, and they're trying to optimize their margin. It all boils down to how they deliver software, which is tend to be pretty complex. In SaaS B2B, just because you have too many features and you need these features, you need that power. So there was always like that crazy pain that I felt in most board meetings is like, why is the product not simple? And then why is it not powerful? And you have to decide always and balance between simple and powerful. And in SaaS B2B, if you're kind of enterprise, you have to be powerful. And now coming AI, I think we can deliver on the simple in a true way.
You've been building SaaS for years. What does it really mean for a product to be AI first? And how is it different from just a chat bot or an LLM feature?
I think the co-pilot mode, the chatbot is nice, but eventually being AI native or AI first, it means that your application is built around intent, right? You want to first define and design features around that intent, not around workflows and menus. These eventually will go away. It just doesn't make sense to have so many static workflows and menus and no intelligence in between them. So I think that when you have chat, it can answer questions, it can maybe operate some things, but you want to create this native experience when in every screen, I'll be able to get things done, or even just one, collapsing everything to one single chat screen that can do everything. I think that we're going to see different levels of AI first experiences. There's the onboarding experience where it's all about on setting up the right settings based on best practices. Again, in SaaS B2B, that's the first mile, which is very painful. You had to customize a solution based on what your objective and so forth. I can definitely envision an AI native experience that I say, hey, I want to create a marketing project. I want to build my CRM around one industry, and it will actually automate that friction point into just minutes. All the expertise into the agent. I work with the chat. I define my objective, and it just does it for me. There's different levels of I think, visualization that I feel like we're still going to see and have. Usually when I go to the deep features, let's say if I do like a campaign management page or areas that I want to actually go into the details, and that's my day-to-day feature. An agentic experience means that now I can always assist with an agent, but it's ingrained in my experience. So I can get the meeting summary operated, and I can chat, and it will operate and put the right fields to me. So, I can get outcome better, and even sometimes, again, skip navigation in many cases. But it basically looks at like me as a company that I have my data, the database of the SaaS, but I also manage my interaction data, the user experience data, the chat data, the knowledge-based data. You have to make that available if you want to be AI first, AI native. Your release notes, your best practice, everything has to be available for the agent in a very meaningful way. And the agent also needs to know that what actions your clients are available in your tool, and what objectives do they want to achieve.
Yeah, there's definitely a huge shift. And with that shift comes a shift in user expectations and the user experience. How is AI changing the way that users interact with software? You described some of the feature richness that's now available, but how do you see that changing from a user expectation perspective?
I think that as opposed to the previous technological shift that we've seen around, user had to adopt to a new thing. I think that what we saw with OpenAI, ChatGPT pioneered this is the new user experience. Users very quickly adopted that new kind of prompt interface that is like amazing user experience. I can just specify what I want. And that's kind of the magic. I think Google did it with search when it was just like prompt, and now it's with the chat. And I think that we are seeing that hundreds of millions of users using it daily. And that means that they're basically getting that expectation from your application. They're becoming so much more productive when they want to achieve something. Once they use ChatGPT, when they come to your app, there's like a huge dissonance. So the user expectation, we saw it with our one of our first clients that they launched with just like mostly chat. Very quickly, users started to tell the agent, do this and that. It was not like, hey, the agent can do it. It was the opposite. Users actually chatted with the bot, says like, please create this task for me. And that was like a nice aha moment, like, wow, you can actually even see even gaps in features or features you don't have because users are actually asking the agent to do that for them. So I think that from user experience, they're going to expect a consumer grade experience, and SaaS has to move very quickly to that direction, or I think an AI-based native SaaS will just replace them. We've seen task management, CRMs, a lot of marketing automation, a lot of systems that in order to get the outcome, you have to guide it, and there's a ton of workflows and information. I can imagine like a startup with AI coming and disrupting them because it's much easier to help to do that. So I think the consumers are going to vote with their feet, and we're going to see that the expectation is going to be like, hey, I want an agentic experience. And truly, I will seriously considering moving to an AI-first experience because SaaS B2B is helping me do my job, right? That's the whole promise. That's optimizing my function, my job. And if you try to compete with menus and workflows against AI agents, it's just like a pretty lost war.
When you think about UI, do you think they will become invisible? Will SaaS interfaces appear entirely? Or are we headed more towards a hybrid future? What are things going to look like down the line?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think we're going to see that the UI is still there. I know usually there's the shift, you go to extreme one side, everything's going to be a prompt. And I think that We are very visual creatures, and I think that reading a lot is great if you're trying to write a blog or messaging, documentation. But when you're looking to generate something or to read information, visualization is going to be very powerful. I want to see my pipeline, if it's green or red. I want to see the timeline. There's a reason that these visualizations exist. So I do see that stays, but we need to rethink the way we structure the user experience. No more very large menus, no more like scary, a ton of fields to go and implement and insert. There's a lot of assistant, inline assistant that can happen. And imagine that each screen is kind of shared with the agent, and you can have them assist in every way. So it's like either going there, I think in getting information, I want to look at my flight status. I want to see something visual, and I want to see if it's red or green. I want to see my pipeline. I want to see the trend. So visual is going to be there. It's just going to be presented in a more AI native, and also the input is going to completely transform.
So will every SaaS product have its own co-pilot in 5 years?
I think that in way less than 5 years, we're going to start seeing like the different implementation of agentic experience within the SaaS. It's going to be just native inside. So it's going to know your product. It's going to know the user. It's going to know the user habits as well. So it can be even be proactive. I think we're going to get there much faster than 5 years, because the technology here, there's a lot of like things or to figure out from data perspective, from context is a very, and evaluations are hot buzzword, but that's actually true to figure out. But I see this happening very quickly. And we're going to see the new big companies born as AI native, because just like the frictionless customer acquisition is a quantum leap for experience.
Where do we draw the line between automation and human control? And this is increasingly an important question because we're seeing agents really take off. How do you think about that balance between AI going completely autonomous versus having ways for us to still maintain control?
That's a great question. I think that in many cases, when the data is really sensitive and important, we're going to see that visualization, and AI will tell us, hey, approve this action. It's how a human works today. Before I make the transaction, or I invite that user, or I create this report, it will give you that signal and visualization saying, and we call that in our product chatter blocks. Like it's going to show you, either it's like a display of information or just an input that wants to just, it will fill out for you, but it will say, hey, click the save, click the create. That's going to be an important step for our control. There's going to be a like offline task that's going to be really helpful. Like, hey, check my inbox every day, do this for me, or weekly on a weekly basis. Be my kind of champion customer success, personal customer success running in the background, and kind of really running everything for me, and send it to me where I am in Slack, in email, and so forth. This is where it's going to take place to do those tasks. The control is going to come from other ways of observability, controls. There's many tactics to look at that, where clients will feel comfortable, and there's ways to mitigate hallucinations and decisioning. So I think over time we'll see like basic decisions made by AI, and over time more and more decisions, because eventually we know that even humans makes mistakes. Even the most technical support might give a wrong advice to a customer. I've seen it many times. So that can happen, and we live with that. And I think we're going to build a trust with the observability and understanding how many times do you see AI hallucination versus human hallucination? And if it's going to be dramatically better for AI, we're going to trust it more. Not to mention, by the way, bugs. Like there's in automation, stuff like that, things happen, and there's a bug, and you discover that way late in the game. But it's very interesting to see when customers or users are going to trust AI more and more and more. And it's down to the observability and control they put in place.
How do you think about fallback states or soft landings when something goes wrong?
There's definitely like a couple of ways to even mitigate beforehand. Like you have the kind of the multi-agent that is like always observing. The key is also to have the context of the user, the role permissions, the actions. There's a lot of context that has to be very current. It has to be real time. I might now have access to something or not. So if you're suggesting or trying to do something, it has to be in sync with my user context, my behavior, and so forth. I think that, again, like in getting information, eventually the AI is going to still operate against your database. So it's going to display the data in your database. And when you insert data, it should show you before, just to confirm that that's what you want, and then it's going to go in. So I think there's ways to mitigate that, as opposed to just like, hoping for the best. And again, in some questions, it might not answer correctly, and this is where the user feedback comes in. But that happens to me every day when I try to, human support. It sometimes, they know, sometimes they don't, sometimes, they give you different advices. So I think, again, it's going to be something that we get used to, and we might even identify that that is happening. So I think to get a great AI first experience, you need to think about how to deal with that situation. How do you mitigate that? And if it happens, how do you see these gaps and take action on these gaps? And it's going to be an ongoing elements. Again, it's the same with humans. They might not provide the right answer all the time.
Right now in the PM community, the whole subject of AI evals is extremely hot, and the subject has taken off. I think what we're finding is that a lot of this is still the Wild West, and we're still coming up with frameworks and methods to mitigate various risks and failures and so on. Huge topic.
Yeah, to that point, I think it's we're gonna see more and more how do you create this like training set, the same way you QA features, there's QA automation, they do positive, negative, non-functional testing. Evals are trying to figure out if the agentic decision is correct against, and I think we're gonna see more and more that it's part of releasing a feature. You want to create those evaluation and even ground truth based on trained data from your SaaS, so you are able to kind of launch it in a safe way, as opposed to truly launch it and be in the Wild West. I think the biggest gap is actually the fact that that users or customers basically are launching the one experiment with AI. It looks great, demo level looks great. You build something with AI, you think you figure this out, but then comes scale. I think the biggest gap I'm seeing is, as opposed to other transformation in the past, in AI, it's super easy to create a very exciting demo in one instance. And then you have 10,000 users. And that's a huge jump for AI. This is where evals are critical. This is where like observability is critical, security, mapping the context, understanding the customized instructions. That's where it's just completely different thinking. And that's, I think, the kind of the dissonance, the cognitive dissonance that customers going through. They promise something, they show the demo, and then it doesn't launch in production. That's the dissonance, the cognitive dissonance that they have. Because like, whoa, I thought it's gonna behave nicely, but yeah, one instance of successful test is not like 10,000. It's just like completely different ball game.
On the venture side, I'm seeing there's a dearth of people who actually know how to scale AI systems. It's very easy, as you mentioned, to build a prototype, to come up with an idea and really get it going, but making it scale is the really hard piece.
Exactly.
Discoverability, let's shift to discoverability. It's such a classic challenge for product teams. Every feature I've ever built in my product career, we always had to think about, is this going to be visible enough and accessible enough for our users? In an AI first product, how do users find and engage with features when they don't even know these things exist yet?
You want them to know enough about the product. And the AI should be proactive in this case. If I signed up, they want to probably not overwhelm me and guide me towards the first time to value, the first moment of value, to do my aha moments. They can do it proactively with me. So in other cases, I think, again, like discoverability is always been a challenge. They don't even know that you have the features. I've heard somewhere a huge company that analyzed their churn, and 80% of the users that churn actually churn for lack of a feature that company actually has. So that is like really really painful to think about. You worked, and I've seen the same with Marketo. When you started measuring usage, we saw that most of the customers use around 20% of our features. That was like, wow, they just don't even know, or it's too complicated. But in many cases, they didn't know we had that feature. Coming AI, again, you're shifting towards objective based experience. So it's jobs to be done stuff. So if I want to create a campaign, or I want to create like a account planning in my CRM, it will utilize the features in the backend. Right? It's like you need sometimes to think like headless UI. You're basically saying, all right, this is the objective. If you're building a features to optimize my objective, great. The AI naturally is gonna deliver on them. What you need to do is just tell the AI, this was released, this is available. Again, back to that context, what they can actually execute and what is the user about, their objective, and do that mapping. So you're going to see we're measuring the actions, the agentic user interaction that the user did, meaning they said something as objective and the AI was using some of all of your features in the backend. So technically they don't even know, but they actually got to use it. And again, we're seeing with like early customers that suddenly users are asking for features they don't necessarily have, and the AI is figuring out how to tailor that. But it's definitely AI is from day one is able to do what a champion will do for you. So they're moving from like 0 to 100 on day one just because the user is asking for. So if you think about, let's take Optimizely, they have the standard users, they use all the defaults in the A/B testing, and they want to move them to the advanced users that they do some just to extract more value out of the A/B testing, right? So that journey is not trivial, but with AI, they can totally make it trivial. Why would you start with basic when you go advanced if you have that kind of co-pilot or agent does it for you?
A foundational part of this is your AI product having the right context. How do you actually build contextual intelligence into your product so that it understands what users need, when they need it, and that it adapts appropriately?
That's definitely one of the challenges, right? Because if you just plug in an AI and like doesn't have the context of what is your product is about, and it needs to go beyond the knowledge base. It needs the knowledge base to be up to speed and see the best practices. It also needs to know all your endpoints and actions available. All right. So you need to tailor that together to make that available. And then the context is what the user is actually doing. So I think we're going to see a shift before, like if they interact with the chat, I need to create this context, save the conversations, make that memory per user available as part of the context. And again, making that available in real time. What screen the user is on right now is also really important context. You have to make that available. Again, that will optimize and move you from a co-pilot to a native experience. Co-pilot can answer questions. If you tell it what's going on, what's wrong. AI native means like, I see where you are, right? Why? Because they have this real-time context. And real-time context has, in my view, at least 3 pillars. It needs to know the actions. It needs to know your usage, and it needs to know basically the knowledge base, like the overall best practices. So if I know who you are, what you're trying to achieve, the best practices, I can actually start triggering for you. And I need to pass this context immediately as someone is prompting the AI, or if the AI is proactively even trying to assist you.
Another really effective lever for this that you can add on top is memory. How do you think about designing effective memory into your product?
It's a massive layer. I think it's eventually, again, users expect you to know and understand their style, because there's also like a level where prompting is just like you feel like you wasted so much time prompting too many times, and then you go back. It's like maybe if I just did it myself, it would be shorter. So memory is the way to fix this. If the AI has availability to your past conversations, past usage data, and they can interact with it as soon as you prompt, that is actually creating a very valuable memory available. And again, this is part of the context that you have to shift to AI native to make it more effective. And you need to control what goes to memory, what's not, what not is going to memory, and so forth.
How do you measure whether your contextual system is working and what are the metrics that matter?
I think for us is to see we track success, which means like it actually triggers the right agentic interaction, meaning your features in the backend. And we're seeing the success if it's like tied to the objective the users defined. So that's one thing to kind of to measure and to look at. Then you need to also measure the gaps. When the AI tells you I could not answer these questions, or I couldn't execute this functionality, that's another thing is to just watch and always maintain and optimize. Those are kind of the new AI bugs or glitches saying like, by the way, it might be that your documentation is outdated. So this is why AI, the agent, it doesn't really execute what you're telling it to do. So I think measuring the agentic interactions, measuring the outcomes that clients are able to achieve suddenly is going to be pretty amazing to say like, hey, compare even your baseline with current usage. And then let's compare now your kind of effective sticky features, which are being touched through the agentic, and then see, and then always closing the loop with user feedback. And by the way, there's always implicit feedback through the chat interface. When users do stuff and you can see the sentiment from the conversation, because I think it's like not just usage, you also want to see that this is getting good feedback. The other metric I would look is time to value. Time from the first value, frequency of usage of sticky features. Classic one, it's not new, but you're going to see a massive improvement. If time to value used to be like a true value, initial value might be like, 3 sessions, true value, 3 months. I think true value might be just shortened to kind of the first session, right? I'm able to do everything for you and then execute and show you that outcome. So that's a time to value, something I would definitely measure as well.
Do you happen to have a good example of that time to value, maybe immediately versus 3 months? Yeah.
I think that if you look at most CRM and project management tools, I would guess that time to value means a lot of onboarding calls with different personas. And then someone that comes in and configure their CRM, project management, task management, marketing automation, you name it, towards their goal. So 3 months might be pretty good. And then involving a lot of high touch interactions, or they just hire someone full time that their job, and still to take any tool. I love HubSpot. It's like really simple tool as well. But again, it just definitely takes time to go and deliver a really high quality campaign, right? So I think that is going to change dramatically from months to literally minutes, as long as you kind of get the jobs to be done from the client.
As you're building, experimentation has always been the fundamental piece. How is experimentation different today in the world of AI products? Are we throwing out the old A/B testing playbooks?
I think we're going to still see experimentation because you can create agentic experiences and see what actually works better and actually what leads to better outcomes. And of course, AI even can self-automate what actually works and fine-tune it. Definitely in experimentation today, it's more like nothing is moving, right? Because you have like sample of the same audiences, you have the sample group that is not being engaged, and then AI is not going to be super consistent with how it does things. Experimentation needs to be a rethink, but I think we're going to see experimentations with different agentic experiences. It's really exciting to see like how you can create an experiment. It's going to be text only. You can create an experiment that you actually text and see these chatter blocks and visualizations. So like, did customers actually like that more? Did that move the time to value faster? Just like shorten it that. I can create a lot of like kind of interactive mode with my UI. There's a lot of new UX patterns that are now, there's the canvas style. So it's a kind of a reborn of UX, AI, UX. And I think experimentation is going to be like with each type of engagement, also, what do you say? And I think you can be able to do it at much higher scale, having AI as a backend as well.
Yeah, I think experimentation on the feature side definitely makes sense, but what do you think about model selection? Is that also part of experimentation? When I was at Meta, whenever we launched another version of the model, we would make an experiment for that, but it's quite tricky to disambiguate, where it's about the feature versus the model.
Absolutely. I think that this is why um, we thought about this problem as kind of a first principle. Even like we have this evaluation modules built into the platform to create your ground truth, because that's the true way. So you can actually create like thousands of prompts, either from existing users or generated also by UI, kind of synthetic data, and then compare these towards the actions they executed, one or set of actions. So you can score them and see what's the best model for your use case. And when we say best, it can be like fastest, cost-wise, accurate, right? So if all of them are pretty accurate, you're going to go with like the low latency one or the cheaper one, or accuracy is going to lead, right? That's going to be really important. But I think that testing that is much easier when you have the ground truth and you can really run and compare models. And by the way, you need to monitor these models all the time. Sometimes you see phenomena that suddenly they answer differently and it's the same model, same version. So we're going into a world where you're going to see like generic models, multimodals, and like very specialized model. I think that eventually the big enterprises will have very customized model for their product because it has a lot of valuable data. Really user data can help them tune any LLM and be the inference data, for example, based on all their usage. So that's going to give them an advantage because their experience is going to be even much more personalized. And sometimes people actually starting to use different LLMs and they feel one LLM is actually more personalized to them than the other. They need to less prompt. And, so I think that because some LLM clients like OpenAI did a good job on the context on that, like saving the things that you said before, and they always kind of build that profile. So that's going to be another experience edge for enterprises. And I think, by the way, like in the past, when you have more memory and more CPU, you actually wanted even more. And when you had like, it's same here, like when the experience is going to be so easy, you're going to want to see like more capabilities, and like, it's just like the ROI is amazing, right? It's like you can do way more with way less. So the sensitivity is going to be even more like aggressive by the user. It's usually goes like, the same way. The faster you can do things, the less patient you're going to get.
How do you predict what's going to work for which customer? Do you add customization? Do you offer different models per customer? How do you handle that?
I think it goes back to trying out different models. And I think today it's almost plug and play. They all eventually provide the same interface for the prompting, instructions, tooling, caching memory. There's nuances that is worthwhile looking at. Google and OpenAI have a great and I saw a lot of in Gemini. There's a lot of nuanced models, a lot of deep features that are very, very valuable. And again, it goes back to the use case. Testing it out, see like for these key use cases, what actually behave differently. So it's actually getting back to that ground truth is the key. And you have to build it first. Like you have to, and you're probably going to start with synthetic data. And then as you have more customers, use more. And then usually again, like even releasing an AI first today, we already recommend like gradual rollout. Start like, because there's things that you might not have thought about, because suddenly you have like an intelligent engine that has a decision of its own in your platform. So we've seen just phenomena that like we didn't think about because you can't even test it. Like we saw a scenario when it was actually confused by features because they sound and look the same as a user will be confused. So suddenly it triggers the wrong one. So usually gradual rollout is great, and then you can see how they operate. A fast response to negative user income. You always want to have the feedback option of the thumbs down. If a thumbs down happened, and usually in B2B, it's going to be more, they tend to give you the thumbs down, less the thumbs up, but thumbs down now means that something really happened, and you need to analyze those conversations and come up with like a list of suggested fixes. Again, knowledge gap, offering interactions not relevant and so forth. So gradual rollout is usually like a pretty good idea. And always keeping those metrics to see like what was the cost, latency, accuracy, and then seeing over time how it trends as well.
You mentioned synthetic data as a way to solve the cold start problem in the very beginning. What would you recommend as some of the best practices for working with synthetic data or getting the right synthetic data?
It boils down to the instruction and the product managers kind of knowing, and customer success. A lot of people with great knowledge in the company. So to construct the right like set of prompts to run against your SaaS can be, generic instructions, but it can be much more powerful if you allow to say, hey, this is my product, this is my knowledge base, these are my features, this is my personas. Usually that data exists in like in PowerPoints, in the minds of people, in Slack channels. Working good on like creating the right set of personas, because a good ground truth will generate variations of different prompts. If I have an endpoint, let's say create a Jira ticket, there can be so many things. Is it a bug? Is it a task? Is it like, so you want to create a variation. In our tool today, we kind of generate variations and we instruct it, but we allow you as a PM, as customer success, because we don't know your product, your product best. And you can say like, some customers call that issue. It's not really a ticket. So the more variations you have, the better. And also looking at even multi-language, right? So because also one of the things we saw, users they try to see if the agent can do things. And they also try to see if the agent can speak different languages. And in most like models, they do cover a lot of the main languages pretty well. So you want to create your ground truth even at some point if you're multilingual, are also available in different languages, which is also, by the way, in the past, changing or adding languages to a product was a huge pain. Today with agents, that is minimized because the agent can have a kind of base language and it does a translation for you. So it's pretty cool to see like, oh, we're going to be available in any different language and use different tonation stuff out of the box, especially with now, we're releasing the voice to voice. That is becoming very cool to change languages and just like it seamlessly understands you. It doesn't need knowledge base in a different language. It just uses one core language.
Yeah, when I was at Meta, there was an effort called No Language Left Behind. And there is a tremendous amount of effort that has to go into, of course, getting it right for every language, given that, obviously the big languages have lots of speakers. So it's easier, you have more data to begin with and more people that can help you versus the smaller ones where it just becomes a lot harder.
There's massive, I think, there's a couple of project that if you bump into them, you're gonna like, should I do it? Like multi-language in Marketo, I think it was ongoing years of like creating, and then the UI has to have all these dictionaries, massive, lengthy translation projects that I think you can look at them differently now. Or let's say, you're constantly hearing, oh, the product is too complex. One of the solutions, I'm going to revamp the UI. I'm going to rebuild the UI. Guess what? It looks more beautiful, but still you have a lot of features, a lot of menus, right? So when these things come to mind, like think about like, do I want to do that? Or maybe I should look at like, maybe AI first experience or native experience is going to be easier lift and much better outcome. Because in my past 20 years, I was never able to like, hide all the features that customers really needed. But when I showed them, there was no magic, one screen so simple for everyone at any stage. Just doesn't exist.
Go to market a little bit. If there's anything I'd learned from my brief entrepreneurial experience, it's not enough to have product market fit. Getting to go to market fit is really crucial and important. What's changed when you're launching an AI native product today versus 5, 10 years ago?
I think that PLG is becoming like, oh, that's going to be actually kind of really powerful with AI because you can launch and you can start from a prompt, right? So the go-to-market is going to be in many companies, it's going to make them available for a PLG story. Even if you're the most complex CRM, where in the past, no way they're going to go. And in Marketo, we had free trials and then we closed them because we realized we want to make sure that you're optimizing Marketo before you launch the campaign. And we were not tuned. And many enterprise B2B, they're just like not ready for a free trial, for example. Coming AI, that free trial can be a task, much more achievable task. Because again, most of the gap is like the first setup of all these best practices. So that can be actually an interesting play to say, maybe I should start with onboarding or a trial conversion when I think about AI first. So kind of cutting that, like, let's look at that customer acquisition and create that experience for customers. Once they become active customers and professional, they actually know your tool and it's like, great, you're going to help them at that second stage. But I think changing the model is going to be interesting. Pricing is going to change because AI is not cheap. You have to monitor that. It looks like, oh, it's just like tokens, what that token means. Very quickly, when you want intelligence over a lot of data and information, there's a lot of tokens you're going to need. So if you don't have a consumption-based model and AI can do stuff for you, even asynchronously, you give so much power for the user, they're going to use it. And then the AI is going to compute a lot. And so I think you want to think about upsell and cross-sell, also kind of weaving in some type of consumption-based model as opposed to just only seat-based or only premium features. Because in the past, you can mitigate by how many compute I'm going to provision. In coming AI, it can be expensive. And you need to be smart about your pricing, packaging. Customers expect to get AI actually for free in your product because it's like a win-win. So you need to think about like, should I even think about my core pricing? Should I be even more transparent about the pricing? Because disruption happens with like someone coming in, here's my agentic-based AI native first CRM, and here's my pricing. Start using it, and that can be really disruptive to different companies. And I think the go-to-market motion, again, PLG and pricing is something to seriously consider.
Do you think that top-down sales-led models will survive?
I think so, because eventually that the decisioning of humans and relationship is really important, right? You need to understand what's going on within the enterprise organization. The human relationship, human touch is going to be very valuable. So that is going to stay. But definitely like a lot of areas when we had to optimize with people to get customers to value, to make sure that these are going to be like more like people that orchestrate AI and truly like train the AI as opposed to necessarily do the basic stuff with customers. But I do think that the human connection and having someone you can call is still going to be relevant in enterprise with strategic customer success or sales. But a lot of what they do is going to change. They're not going to be on call with clients explaining how they should use this feature or how to do stuff. They're going to always maintain the pulse on the client as opposed to be kind of a premium support person.
For early stage teams that are building in the space, how should they think about differentiation and what actually creates stickiness in the AI first product?
I think obviously as you start, the low friction, right, is like surfacing value. I think we are also in a brand awareness type of like there's so many solutions, it all sounds the same. So I think, looking at like awareness to what you solve, how you solve, getting users to value, thinking about very creative ways. It's not going to become like a feature differentiation, right? It's like the ease of use, the experience is a differentiation. It's even before AI, I felt like features are hard to differentiate with. You can differentiate with data quality that you have and how agile you are and how the experience of your product is really tailored and working well. AI has a lot of promise, but you need to work very hard to say like this is the experience I expect to have, and becoming way more data driven as well.
Amazing. Let's close with a few fun rapid questions, rapid fire. What's one tool you can't live without right now?
My own tool is like prompting all the time, and it's like it becomes more powerful, and but I think that like obviously using a lot of Gemini and ChatGPT daily and heavily. I also like when I write stuff, obviously it's a fantastic interface, and the ongoing tools that we need, like there's like Expensify and others, like super easy to just like get your expenses done without worrying about that. So these type of tools.
Favorite example of a delightful user experience, AI driven or not?
I'm going to actually reference Expensify again. Like it was such a nice experience. It was an experiment they did. Like, hey, you just like upload your invoice, and it's a chat interface. So I didn't need to see like, and then I asked it like, okay, was it paid? Was it all the reporting? So they did a really nice job of creating that. Even though they were ahead, even with just like the scanning picture and upload, now with AI, they even make it even better. So it's really nice experience, and I really like using them and like seeing how they think always how to optimize their user experience, the common user that actually eventually decides do they like the solution or not. They did a really good job there.
Finally, your boldest prediction for AI SaaS over the next 5 years.
I think that the CEOs are truly concerned for the right reason. The pace of building tech is unprecedented. Companies with like one person, like Base 44 or 5 people, can generate a lot of features and capabilities that is unmatched. So if you're a huge organization of engineers, you're going to spend a lot of time in meetings synchronizing with, and where small teams can run much faster having AI at their fingertips. So I think SaaS will either have to move fast, or we're going to see a lot of new Fortune 500 even kind of companies being born with a more AI native, because I don't think you're going to survive a lot if your tool is just like much harder in B2B specifically. I see no reason I'm going to pay for an admin and have bad productivity versus switching. So I think we're going to see a drastic change and a lot of pressure. And it's going to, in the next 5 years, we're going to see a new set of companies just born. And on parallel, the companies that will survive are the big ones that can leverage their existing install base and existing data and can move fast enough to a new AI native. In my experience, companies don't tend to move fast enough, but some will and some won't. And we're going to see exciting new companies out there.
Mickey, this was packed with insight. Thank you so much for joining me, and I can't wait to see Eucera launch. Where can people find you and follow along?
Reach out to me on LinkedIn. I think it's or X. Happy to jump on a call with folks that are thinking about AI native, AI first experiences. Whether a chief product officer or product manager or customer success or a CPO, happy to kind of share notes and have a discussion.
Thank you so much, and thanks everyone for tuning into AI Studio. Until next time.
Awesome. Thank you.